This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, compulsively punchable.
He's the kind of guy who you'd probably just punch on the arm really hard if you ever met him.
Worshipped by feminists.
He pokes fun at feminism and women, just joking around, his whole sandwich making thing.
Mildly inspiring.
Yes, I recommend the Ben Settle Show, and anybody who isn't on it, that's their own loss.
Somewhat authentic.
Ben is a very distinct personality. There's no fluff. I can't stand fluff.
Syrupy sweet.
Tells it like it is, and sometimes may not be the most polite manner, shall we say.
Kind of useful.
So I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaching and masterminds, and I've learned more from Ben Settle's podcast than from any of that.
Semi-intelligent.
Ben sounds like a crazy guy at times, but he's one of the smartest individuals in marketing I've ever met.
Mostly forgettable.
He's always in the forefront of my mind.
The BenSettle.com podcast begins now.
This is Ben Settle of BenSettle.com with the BenSettle.com podcast. I have to say that, Jonathan, because if I don't, I'll keep calling it the Ben Settle Show, which obviously is not airing anymore. I mean, it's up, but it's not like new ones. So remember when you and I was talking to you about this like in July or August or something, right after we ended El Bembo's Apprentice. I was like, I'm going to do another podcast eventually. I said, but I want to focus a lot more on mindset stuff.
Yeah.
And not just how-to stuff, right? Because, people who get free how-to stuff don't use it. They don't value it. It's just how it goes. And I tend to constantly do that. I never intend to give away how-to free information, but I end up doing it all the time in all those shows. So this time I want to try to, and I know I'm not always going to succeed at this, but I want to try to make it more mindset-y, more mindsetish. Mind settle. Have you called the Mind Settle show?
Mind settle, yeah.
Mind settle.
We got to start
Mind
all over.
settle stuff. Turn the Mind Settle show. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so many moons ago, there's this guy named Walter E. Williams. I used to listen to the Rush Limbaugh show a lot, 16, 17 years ago, especially during the 2000 election. I don't know. I was just really into his show at the time. He entertained the hell out of me, It was fun. And I don't really listen to much talk radio anymore, but it's something I really wish I would do more of, or should do more of. If I had the self-discipline like we talked about last week, maybe I would. So maybe I need to work on that a little more. I wouldn't listen to his show. I'd probably listen to Michael Savage. I highly enjoy his show more. But anyway, Walter E. Williams would sometimes sit in for Rush Limbaugh. Now, Walter E. Williams should have a show of his own, in my humble but accurate opinion, because he's hilarious. I mean, people think my jokes, not everybody thinks they're funny, but the few people who think that my sandwich making jokes and all that kind of stuff are funny, you would love Walter E. Williams. That guy, he does what I do, but times it by 10. And he's talking to a national audience. So imagine the flack he gets. But anyway, he told this, he used the snail analogy. I don't know why he used this analogy. I think obviously had something to do with politics, but he was talking about if you put a snail on the ground, and let's say you're in New York and you point it toward LA, right? Now, barring any birds trying to eat it or anything running it over or anything like that, if you put that snail in motion, it will get to LA eventually. It might take, 50 years, but it'll get there eventually if you just start moving in a direction and you don't stop. Well, this is how it goes too when it comes to, I'm going to talk about this for guys, by the way, Jonathan. I know there's girls listening to this, but really this is for guys. This show is mostly for guys. Just like the Villains book was mostly for guys. Except the funny thing is half the testimonials come from girls on the Villains book. So that may be the case with this episode too. I don't know. Okay, but I'm going to talk about from a guy's point of view. Although I could see girls benefiting from this. Girls can benefit from learning at the feet of El Bembo, Jonathan. I was telling that. El Bembo is such a stupid name. I was thinking about how stupid of a name that was earlier today, and that's probably why I like it so much. But anyway, as I was saying, so last June-ish? Yeah, it was last June. Your pal, your boy, your not so humble host, me, yours unruly, as I like to refer to myself sometimes, had parted ways with the ex-copywriting apprentice. We'd had differences of opinion, wanted different things. There's no enmity there. I don't have a single negative thing to say about her. It just didn't work out. Things had to end. So after that, of course, because I'm a guy and I'm easily bored, I just started dating right away. I don't care if it was 2 years or 20 years. I just get right back on the saddle and I'm out there having a good time already within about 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. It was probably the most productive. I mean, I got a lot of stuff done. You know what I learned, Jonathan, after that?
What?
Because that was like a 20, I don't know, it was like a 2-year We were dated for like 2 years. I learned that I am so much more productive when I'm single. Dude, I didn't have anybody trying to take my time. It was awesome. I wrote 4 of my Enoch Wars books within like 4 months, which, that's a lot of, it wasn't even that hard to do. I just didn't have to like schedule around somebody else's life.
Yeah.
It was perfect. But anyway, so I'm out there and I'm doing my thing. And, I started dating it was easy. It's not like a hard thing. Even in the area I live, which is very small population, it was not a problem for me at all. But it didn't mean that I was just going to rest on my laurels either. Whatever the hell that means. I don't even know what a laurel is, but I didn't rest on them, whatever it is. There were 3. There was this lesson that I had learned many years earlier that I apply to these types of situations, whether it be you find yourself you're no longer with the girl you were with or whatever, or if you find out a client leaves you or if your best customer leaves you, whatever it is, there's a 3-step process that anybody can take. Now, this applies to both relationships and to business. I want to be very clear about this, even though the analogies, about relationships, this applies so much more to business. It's not even funny. But there are 3 things that if you just do these 3 things, and remember, Jonathan, during the last week's show, I said that anybody who's going through this right now or has recently gone through this, whether it be a divorce or you got dumped or whatever it is, or from business, if you just got dumped by a client or whatever, I'm going to make you feel better. I'm going to dispense the feels to everybody in the audience so that you'll be feeling really good and warm and fuzzy, which is not the usual feeling you get when you listen to my stuff. Let's face it. I'm not into that, making people feel good. I like to make people feel miserable, personally. I like to call them on their bull crap and make them realize that what they've been doing is wrong their whole life. And, that's always jolting to the psyche. But 3 things, all right? And the first thing to do, and we talked about this last week about power, right, is self-improvement. You got to keep working on improving yourself. So if you're a dude, all right, and you just found yourself in this situation, and you realize that you've been kind of slacking a little too much, maybe with your health and the gym and all that, you need to start improving yourself. And you never want to stop doing it. That's the thing. I think this is where a lot of people go wrong, Jonathan, is they get married or they end up with some girl that they like a lot and everything, and they start getting complacent and they stop improving themselves, which is this is probably why why a lot of guys get in trouble, because they don't realize that it was their constant improving themselves what made them attractive to whoever it was they were dealing with. Same with business. There are people who get clients and suddenly they get really complacent. They think they can get away with stuff and being late and all that. We talked about that last week, punctuality and all that. Maybe they do a little bit of disrespect toward their client or whatever, and they get complacent because they think that client would never get rid of them. And then bam, it happens. And then they're like, crap, I haven't been keeping up on my, improving my skills or anything like that. What am I going to do? Well, the first thing is if you got like that, you need to get back to improving yourself. So step number 1 is work on improving yourself. But whatever that means for you, it's different. For me, it was, I don't remember what it was for me. I kept improving myself. So I didn't really have to go through this part. But most people fall into this trap. And I've seen it. I've seen it in a lot of my friends. I see people in business that I deal with go through this sort of thing. They just they just started thinking they could get away with a little bit of slop, a little bit of slack. Maybe they're not exercising as much as they used to. Maybe they're drinking a little too much beer. Maybe they're just not continuing to improve their skills in copywriting, for example. And they're just kind of, I don't need to. This is the only market I work on, and I don't have to get better because this client knows I'm the best and all that. I've seen this happen so many times. I've talked to people that this has happened to many times over the last several months, especially when I did this 2-week speaking thing. When I spoke at 3 different places at the AWAI thing. I probably talked to almost 100 people by the end of that week. And this story came up a few times, this sort of thing. So you always want to be working on improving yourself. Always. Jonathan, never stop improving yourself.
Okay. All
right? Or Cupcake is going to dump your ass so fast you won't even know what hit you. Okay?
Nice.
She won't be called Cupcake. She'll be called Devil's Cake after that. And she's got the meanest voice I've ever heard, by the way. You realize that?
Yeah, she's
Cupcake is a mean voice, dude. It sends a chill down my spine, dude. I think she's gonna kill me. Just her voice. It's scary. Obviously, I'm kidding with you. It's like the exact opposite. It's like the sweetest. I've told you, it's like the sweetest voice of anyone I've ever heard in my life. So good job. You picked a good one there with Cupcake.
I'll let her know.
Or do we call her Cupcake or Rachel? What can the audience call her? What should they refer to her?
Her name is Cupcake.
Or her name is Cupcake. Legally changed to Cupcake.
It's official.
Perfect. Okay. Cupcake.com. The Cupcake Factory. So working on improving, I don't even know where we're going with half this stuff. Work on improving yourself. That's the first thing you do. When you find yourself in a situation, again, whether you're no longer with the person you're with or it's a business thing, whatever it is, start working on improving yourself right away. Don't get all sad and all, and crying and all that. Just don't even give yourself time for that. You just start improving yourself. You make yourself better. What you do is Jonathan, there was this one girl I dated once before the ex-copywriting apprentice. She did me the biggest service of my life. And I've talked about this a little bit that, it motivated me to like write Zombie Cop and all this stuff, right? When her and I parted ways. Because it was done in a way that I was a little bit pissed off, to put it mildly. That girl made it so easy for me to get more successful because I'm like, I'm not going to let this girl find a more successful guy than me. And, she never has, of course. And that was my mindset. And you can use these negative, what people would call negative things to actually move mountains. And that's one example of it. But I just kept improving myself and over and I still have, and I never stopped because, you want to make yourself the best you can be regardless. And you're not doing it for a person or a client or anything. You're doing it for yourself. And once you get that down, you can let all the things motivate you. You can let other people's bad decisions or whatever motivate you, but don't do it because of them. Do it because of, you want to take care of yourself. And this is a hard mindset, I think, for people to get into, actually, Jonathan. People tend to want to please other people. I think you should please yourself first.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I should reword that. Please yourself first. You know what I'm talking about, you dirty mofos. But that's the first rule. So work on improving yourself. The next thing that you should be doing is pursuing your mission. Now, I talked about this in my villains book, The Persuasion Secrets of the World's Most Charismatic and Influential Villains, on Amazon.com. If anyone listening to this has not read it.
Sidebar, real
Jonathan
quick.
says he's read it twice.
How'd the launch go for that?
The launch went excellent, dude. We sold over 500 copies. And we were number one in 3 different categories, which is weird because one of the categories was parenting.
What?
Which I don't understand that, but we were briefly number one in 3 different and that wasn't, and by the way, when I was doing the launch, I didn't care about being ranked or any of that stuff. I just wanted to, I just did my thing. I used my system. It works for launching products and it's for email player subscribers. You have access to the back issues. It's the December 2011 issue. If you're not an email player subscriber, you're shit out of luck because I don't sell the back issues to non-subscribers. So there you go. In fact, that issue has made a lot of people a lot of money from what I understand. I don't know if you ever used it, Jonathan,
of course,
but I believe that's when you came on, actually. That was your first issue, wasn't it?
It was right. I think maybe it was the one right before that. But yeah, that was about when I started.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and that thing, I get people, that's one of my best-selling back issues for a reason. But yeah, I just used my system and I wrote my emails. I had a fun time with it. I had this villain theme going through all those. I sent 17 emails out. And every single email except for maybe 1 or 2, I put a quote from a villain. At the top that related to the email itself. It was tremendous fun for me to write. It seemed like it was pretty fun for people to read because I didn't really get I didn't get a single complaint about mailing too much, which is the first time that's ever happened when I do. Usually somebody complains, not a single complaint. In fact, if anything, people were
You did the setup though. That's one thing I never saw you do before was that you actually went in and said, hey, you're about to get blasted with emails. Leave or stay, up to you.
Yeah, well, I do that every time now. I've done that the last couple things. I also do it before I do an affiliate offer. For example, when I sold Danny Eney's course builders thing, I did the same thing but then I realized, I'm still collecting new opt-ins during these weekends. So these new opt-ins are getting bombarded with 3 emails a day. And sometimes I could go in there, Jonathan, if I was a nicer person, a kinder person, which I'm not. I would just go into the autoresponder and I would just change that first message to warn them they just came in on a launch. But I find it more amusing to not do that. I want them to get 10 emails from me in a day and say, holy crap. Because anybody who sticks around after that as a new opt-in, they're staying for life probably. So
good point.
In fact, when I did that email the day before I started launching the villains book, I did the thing, look, you're going to get a ton of emails, blah, 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 blah. The next day, people were complaining that I hadn't sent them several emails.
Wow.
It was weird. It was aren't you, usually I get complaints. This was people anxious for me to send more emails. It's a good spot to be in when you get to that point, when your list is actually demanding you send them more emails. That's a good sign, at least as far as I'm concerned. All right. And anyway, so back to our list here. So the first thing is improving yourself. The second thing is to pursue your mission and your goals. Again, this is everything, man. And that villain's book is the first chapter. In fact, I believe the chapter title is a man or a villain without a mission is like a man without testicles. And I stand behind that analogy, Jonathan, of castration.
Good one.
Because if you stop pursuing your mission, you basically professionally and emotionally castrated yourself, because you got to have something that's the only thing that you should be putting on a pedestal. Because most people, for example, and again, I'm talking to guys here. I'm not talking to girls necessarily. Guys tend to put their girl on a pedestal. Jonathan, you don't put Cupcake on a pedestal. I've noticed this.
I can't.
You don't put her on a pedestal.
I'd be screwed.
No. No, because she could only look down at you at that point.
That's right.
The thing is, though, she's kind of short. If you put her on a pedestal, you still might be lording over her.
Yeah, I might just have like an inch or so over her, right?
Even if you put her on a pedestal, you're going to have to put like boost her on a chair too and a pedestal. Yeah, I'm kind of short myself, so I shouldn't be making these jokes. But anyway, that's the thing. The only thing somebody should be putting on a pedestal is their mission, their main goal, their life's goal, whatever that is. And it's different for everybody. For some people, it's building $1 billion empire. That's not my mission at all. You know, I don't really care about stuff like that. But for some people, it could be mastering an instrument, becoming great, becoming, a world recognized authority about something else. It could be anything. It could be founding a church. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever it is that your mission is. And I think this is the chapter that people like the most in that book, because it got them thinking about this. That's what you put on a pedestal. You don't put people on a pedestal. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of guys do. And a lot of copywriters do the same thing to their clients. They put their clients on a pedestal, and then their client can only look down on them. They are no better than you are. Okay, they need you as much as you need them. And in fact, Jonathan, I've made this case on the last Ben Settle show, when it was the Ben Settle show. I have made this case, and I've done it in my emails, and I've done it many other times, that if you're good at what you do, if you're a copywriter or some kind of service provider, coach, whatever it is you do, well, even a life coach, Jonathan, which you know my opinion on life coaching. I'm more of a death coach than a life coach. But if you're good at what you do, whatever it is, or whatever you sell, it doesn't even have to be a service. If that's a great product, the math is on your side. There's less supply of you or whatever it is you sell than there are of people who need what you have or what you're offering. So don't have to put nobody on a pedestal. And guys, do not put a girl on a pedestal either. For any guys listening, I know that there's guys listening to this who do this. They like pedestalize their girl, and then they wonder why they get treated. Suddenly get treated like crap, because she doesn't want you to put her on a pedestal. She might tell you she does, but trust me, she doesn't. El Bembo knows what's going on with that. You just listen. Trust me on this. It's all good. So the third thing is to chat up people. Well, let's say you're looking for clients. You should constantly be bringing more leads in. So you're improving yourself, you're pursuing your mission, and you're bringing new leads in. Constantly. If you just found yourself single again, you should be chatting up girls all the time. New ones that you find interesting. Not just anybody, but people you find interesting. You should be talking to potential clients if it's a business thing that you find interesting, in niches that you find interesting. People that are already hiring, by the way, I'm talking about copywriters here, but this applies to anything. You should only be talking to people who are already hiring whatever it is you do. So you don't have to sell them on why they need you or everything. So those are the three things, Jonathan. Work on improving yourself, pursue your mission, and always be bringing new leads in, whether it be girls you're talking to or clients or customers, whatever. If you do those three things, you will have a peace of mind that you've probably never experienced before. How do I know this, Jonathan? Because I've done it many times. And when I haven't done those three things, I was not a happy camper. But I do those three things now, so I'm always a happy camper. So there you go. That's all I got for today.
It's just weird you saying that you're happy. I thought you were grumpy. What do you have coming up for us next time, Ben?
Grumpy cat. We're going to talk about this phrase that I heard Dante Nero. I've talked about Dante Nero in the old show. Yeah. Remember Dante Nero of the Beige Phillip show? He has this saying that I don't know if he made it up. I don't know, but he says it all the time, which real game is no game. So real game is no game. And I'll explain what that means and how this will make you far more successful at whatever you do next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. So that is a wrap for another bensettle.com show. We'll be back in your earbuds next time.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To get your hands on a free issue of Ben Settle's prestigious $97 per month email player's newsletter, simply go to www.bensettle.com.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.